welcome to Pride Month here on the Arcane Forge. My name is Jess, and today I thought we could do something slightly different from normal, although weirdly similar to last week. Go with me. So, I wanted to make a homebrew subclass for this month that is themed around Pride. I made a homebrew subclass the other week on drag queens and their importance to the LGBTQ+ community. But was it very rainbow? Not enough, I say. And throughout this whole month, I'm going to be doing Pride-themed content, so let's make the most prideful, the queerest subclass that we possibly can. And I thought sorcerers could help us with that. This subclass is available on D&D Beyond. You can find it down below in my description box. It's totally free, so you can use it in your games starting right now, especially if you wanted to do a Pride-themed one-shot or something like that, or you just wanted to have a little bit more queer in your campaign, which, let's be honest, we all do. So I was talking to Colby over on my Discord the other day. By the way, the Discord for the Arcane Forge is down below in the description box. It's open to absolutely everyone. Very, very welcoming and very, very cheerful community. If you'd like to join us and come and say hi, you're extremely welcome. I was talking to Colby, one of my moderators, a fellow content creator, about Pride Month, and we mentioned a really awesome concept to me that one of their players had used in the past. We mentioned that Ash from the RPG Bot podcast, when playing in Colby's campaign, had created a character called Eliza, who was a character who gained their sorceress ancestry, their innate inbuilt magic, due to the love of their parents, basically. They were the child of two same-sex parents who had used magic to become pregnant, conceive between the two of them, and to give birth, basically, and a portion of the magic used, alteration magic, to transform one, the other, or both of them to create this child, had carried over into their blood, and that was the source of their magic, which I thought was a really beautiful and elegant way of not only having a sorcerer's bloodline, but also to celebrate same-sex couples and to allow an in-universe reason and method by which same-sex couples could have offspring, and to throw some magic in there, because we're in a fantasy world. Why not? Let's add some magic into the mix. So I wanted to use Ash's idea, Colby's subsequent world building, to create this subclass, create a subclass for sorcerers based on this very concept. If you're unfamiliar, sorcerer is someone who has magical blood. They come from an ancestry of some kind, and they're born with their magical abilities or an affinity for magic, a bit like the mutants of the X-Men, rather than wizards who have to learn all of their magic. But I like the idea that pride, queerness, and love fundamentally is the magic that someone could draw upon to cast spells, and so the pride-fueled sorcerer was born, essentially, literally just like the characters that hopefully use this homebrew subclass. In the homebrew, I've said that you are a creature of love, for your innate magic comes from having two same-sex parents. When two same-sex parents want to raise a child together, many consider adoption, but for some with an arcane inclination, transformative magics might be used to carry biological offspring. Born of this magical union, you were infused with the love of your parents and the magic rituals they performed to create you. This is where your innate spark comes from, your magical origin and the source of your power. You are a being of love and an agent of equality on Earth. The power of pride magic casts a beautiful radiance over your physical presence. The spark of love that sustains you might have altered the colour of your hair or eyes to reflect the beautiful rainbow colours of pride, or might change based on your mood. However you choose to reflect your magical heritage, it's clear that you have an affinity for radiant, prismatic, and empathic magic. So a lot of the more recent subclasses for sorcerers include an increased spell list. A list of spells where when you reach a certain level you gain additional spells that don't count against your number of spells that you know, and who might be from different spell lists other than those that a sorcerer is typically allowed to cast from. These are usually the most popular subclasses because sorcerers, they do have a lot of spells. They have an absolute ton of spells, but who doesn't love having more, basically? And it's nice to have a bit of extra utility as a sorcerer, whose spells largely tend to focus on the more destructive. So I wanted to do the same, and I thought one of the things that really intrigued me is that D&D tends to have a lot of prismatic magic, a lot of rainbow spells basically, and I want to include as many of them as possible. So I said that at first level you gain access to chromatic orb and colour spray, sounds perfect. Third level you have phantasmal force and pyrotechnics. Phantasmal Force for the ability to make wonderful, glittery, colourful rainbow illusions, and Pyrotechnics is a spell that allows you to easily change the colour and shape of fire. At 5th level, you gain Hypnotic Pattern and Major Image for similar illusory reasons. 7th, you get Elemental Bane, related again to this prismaticness tied into the element, and sickening radiance for two reasons. Firstly, because sickening is a drag term that I just really wanted to put in there, and radiance again because prismatic, light, radiant illusions seemed a good way to have an aura of radiant energy, even if sickening in this case is literally like radiation. Ninth, I wanted to give you destructive wave and wall of light. Again, I imagined wall of light being this huge rainbow that you literally just cast. You can put up this massive pride flag, and destructive wave again ties into the prismatic nature of D&D spells that let you choose or randomly select for you a chaotic element. Now these are the best ones that I could come up with in terms of spells that already exist in D&D, but I thought we could homebrew some as well, and I want to hear your ideas down in the comments because I would like to turn some of these into homebrew spells that we can have for everyone to use. I'll put some of the best ones up on my Instagram maybe. That could replace some of these spells if we find something really fitting and fun and homebrew. For example, as the title card just said, I cast Stonewall, the Stonewall movement being massively influential for the gay liberation movement, and yeah, it could literally be a stone wall, like wall of stone, but maybe it does something different. Maybe it's an agent of change. Maybe it's a wall of stone that only affects guards and other figures of authority or something like that. Maybe a spell like Yassify, something that makes you so incredibly over the top and confident that you gain a temporary D4 to use on your next charisma-based skill check, or maybe skill check related to charisma for the next few minutes or so. I definitely like the idea of a kind of chaotic radiance-based attack, a bit like Chaos Bolt or Chromatic Orb, but on a macro sense, maybe like a fireball that deals a random damage type, or summoning meteors of prismatic colours that deal chaotic different flavours of damage as they strike the table. But anyway, let me know your ideas. I'm going to come up with some of my own and post them hopefully on my Instagram and on the channel as well, so keep an eye out for those, but I really want to hear your ideas and hopefully I can use some of those and attribute you as well. So yeah, let's get creative. I've also said that when you pick this class, or subclass rather, you get a unique bond with another person based on a very, very popular sort of in-joke amongst the queer community. In a rule called Teleportation, I've said that using the innately gay magic that created you, you learn how to form essential bonds with other people like you. In a 10-minute long ritual, you may identify another queer creature, presuming self-queer, but you don't have to be when you're created in this way, but I feel like this would be popular with characters who are potentially queer. But I said you may identify another queer creature with this target. For the next 24 hours, as long as you are on the same plane of existence, one of you may utter the ancient and magical words of "be gay, do crimes." This opens up a gateway or a link between the two of you, allowing the other user to utter phrase "sounds gay, I'm in" as a bonus action, teleporting them to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the original speaker, and you can make this bond with one creature at a time, but may perform that ritual once per long rest, change the binding to another queer creature of your choice. They don't have to be queer. Mechanically, it just means that you make a bond with someone and you can teleport to them, or they can teleport to you. Importantly, I didn't want this to be the whole party being able to teleport wherever, but I thought it'd be really interesting and useful if someone were to get locked up, for example. You could teleport to them and help them escape, or they could teleport to you to escape jail, or just navigate the battlefield really easily. And if you happen to have an in-campaign romance, that means that this partner of yours is never too far away. You can always turn back up and join them. You can do some really risky maneuvers and then as a bonus action just teleport to your queer ally. So at this point in the subclass, I've had my fun with sort of queer in-jokes, and I really want to talk about what pride actually means, that it's an effort to search for equality, so that people who are queer can just be treated like normal humans. It's an act of defiance against an oppressive world that has not been particularly kind to people who have struggled to just exist, and it's about celebrating yourself, to literally be proud of who you are, even though throughout your whole life you might have been told not to be that way, and to not be proud of yourself, to be ashamed of who you are, how you act, and how you were born without any choice of your own. It's a celebration of you, it's a celebration of other people who are in desperate need of equality, and it's a means of having fun to celebrate the idea that we need a little bit of empathy, a little bit of understanding in the world, and to show that people like this are actually visible, not sort of paled away and hidden somewhere. They're outside, they're everywhere, they could be anyone, and there's nothing wrong with them. So I've made 2 little parts of the subclass themed around those ideas. When you next gain a bloodline feature, which I think is at like 6th level, you gain a feature called Empathic Bond, which I've written as follows. I said that you've learned to enforce compassion through magically connecting 2 creatures. You choose 2 creatures that you can see within 90 feet and mystically mark them with colourful symbols. Well, these creatures could be yourself, for example. For the next minute, if one of those creatures deals damage to the other through a spell or a weapon attack, they take half the damage they deal as psychic damage. In return, they feel their quarry's pain. In addition, you may mark one of these creatures as an ally. If the allied creature takes damage, the other must make a wisdom saving throw versus your spell save DC. If they fail the save, they take half the damage that the ally received as psychic damage, but are unaffected if they pass. Essentially what I was going for here is the idea that the slurs, the abuse, the hate that is projected onto queer people could be reflected back to those who are abusing it, who are sending these horrible messages, who are being cruel and unkind deliberately, that you would literally feel each other's pain. I always really wanted to make a magic item based on the point of view gun from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Lets the target experience what you're thinking and feeling. I feel like this is an interesting way of going about it without it being too broken or overpowered, because it targets 2 individuals who become intrinsically linked. It's about showing an aggressor what they're doing, allowing them to feel how bad it feels. Obviously, mechanically, in-game, this has to be related to damage, but perhaps, as a little bit of flavour as a DM, you could throw in the idea that it makes them feel each other's emotions. Make it a bit more useful, because obviously I tied the 2 people together. If you mark an ally, I thought that the abuser could take any damage that the ally takes, provided that they fail a test, of course, making an enemy a bit more vulnerable and this have a bit more utility, but it should also sort of even the gap between the 2, and potentially, once they've learned this lesson, they will target another character or a creature. So it's a good way of shifting the threat from one character to someone else. Perhaps your vulnerable wizard, the very low HP, could become one of these people tethered, and if something really brutal is going to absolutely smash them to pieces, they might do it once, realise that it hurts them as well, and move on to a different target, perhaps ideally your tank. Following the same theme, I made a rule called Equality that you get at level 14. I've said that at 14th level, you gain the ability to fight for equality in a profoundly magical way. As a main action, you can produce a 30-foot aura of prismatic magic centered on yourself. It finds the average of the health of each individual in the circle and redistributes that health among the group. Each creature within 30 feet of you, when you use this ability, must make a Constitution saving throw versus your spell save DC. Creatures may automatically fail this save if they choose. I only went for Constitution. Seems like tearing someone's health away from them and then redistributing it seems like a Constitution thing, but if you think there's a better solution, a better saving throw, make sure to leave your opinion down below in the comment section. I've said that on a failed save, their remaining hit points, not maximum HP, but their remaining hit points are added to a pool of all creatures in the affected aura. This hit point pool is then divided equally among the number of creatures within that aura and are distributed equally, providing temporary HP if this number exceeds character's maximum hit points. Creatures who pass their spell save DC are unaffected and do not contribute their HP to the equality pool or receive any HP in return. You may use sorcery points to increase the range of this aura. Each sorcery point you include in the production of this aura increases the radius of those under the effect of this magic by 10 feet, and once you use this ability, use it again until a new long rest. I thought this was a really interesting feature at quite a high level that allows you to literally make a zone in which everyone's HP becomes exactly the same. And this might mean for your players, if they're fighting a massive dragon, that there's this huge pool of health that's equally to survive, but also it's a bit of a gamble because while you might have done damage to a creature already, and while your party might have taken some damage, you're not quite sure how much health everyone has remaining. This might mean that you heal people back up to full health, it might mean that you give the enemy more health than they had initially, but it's up to your best judgment and it levels the playing field completely. Best used when you're fighting an enemy who has a really low armor class but a lot of health, because you might be able to give a load of temporary HP all of your allies and perhaps even like halve an enemy's health. So I thought this was really powerful, but also really an interesting mechanic that I've not seen much in D&D. finally, I wanted to end on a bit more of a kind of, I guess like just fun. Embrace the ludicrous, over-the-top celebration that is Pride through an ability called Avatar of Pride that you gain at 18th level. I've said that you can spend 6 sorcery points as a bonus action to magically transform yourself into an Avatar of Pride, becoming composed of pure prismatic energy. In this form, you have resistance to all forms of damage except for force and shadow damage, and you gain a flying speed equal to your movement speed. While in this form, whenever a spell is cast by any creature within 60 feet of you, you may decide the damage type that the spell deals, deciding between the various colours of the Pride flag. So red representing fire, orange represents thunder, because I kind of ran out of colours after I picked better ones for others, yellow being radiant damage, blue being lightning, green being acid, indigo being poison, and violet being psychic damage. In addition, whenever you cast a spell of first level or higher that deals damage, it deals additional energy damage equal to your proficiency bonus of a type of the list above. You remain in this form for 1 minute, and it ends early if you're incapacitated, if you die, or if you dismiss it as a bonus. So I kind of pictured you becoming literally like this rainbow phoenix-like character, getting to decide that now the world is a bit more colourful, a bit more pride-filled, a bit more of a carnival, a festival of lights. You get to pick whenever people cast spells. I thought that'd be quite a fun mechanic. Still does damage, even if it's an enemy spell, but you get to decide. So if you know your allies' resistances, you can kind of play around with that a little bit. But also, if you know the vulnerabilities of your enemy, you can change any spell to do whatever damage you want. So you could have like a lightning bolt suddenly deal fire damage or psychic damage or something like that if your enemy is resistant to something like lightning. And you gain this flying speed, so you hover above the battlefield and gain some additional damage of a type that you fancy whenever you cast a spell. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the Pride-fueled Sorcerer, the Pride-filled based Pride Sorcerers. Anyway, Rainbow Sorcerers, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really keen to see what you come up with for spells that might be interesting to use as this subclass, and I really hope you do use this subclass. I think it's genuinely a really powerful subclass, really interesting one as well, and it comes with a kind of bit of an inbuilt backstory, at least to start off with. So make sure to let me know if you do end up using it. I certainly will be, and until next time, happy Pride, stay safe, love yourself, you are valid, and happy monster hunting. Bye!